Welcome back to another episode of Free Space News, and today we're going to be talking about a situation that's been going on here for almost 3 weeks now. I think we're entering day 18, and that is, of course, the government shutdown that has been going on as a result of Congress is refusing to fund Trump's border wall, and Trump is being a hardliner when it comes to this, and it doesn't look like we're really making any progress when it comes to the government being reopened. Now, I'll get to the border wall in a minute because that is an issue that is quite relevant when it comes to this government shutdown, but I want to talk first about what exactly are the consequences when the government shuts down at all for any reason. So to look at this, I want to look at an article from the New York Times, which came out just yesterday. So at the start of the article, the New York Times says, quote, "The impact of a partial government shutdown began to ripple across the economy as it stretched to day 17, now today day 18, with mortgage applications delayed, public companies unable to get approval to raise capital, and thousands of Secret Service agents expected to show up for work without pay. President Trump and congressional Democrats have made little progress in negotiations to end a shutdown that has affected about 800,000 federal workers, many of whom will miss their first paycheck this week, and who owe a combined $249 million in monthly mortgage payments, according to an online real estate firm Zillow." So right off the bat, whenever one of these kinds of stories where emerges where the government shuts down, especially if it's for a multi-week period like this, what often doesn't get talked about in the media is the consequences of it. Really what you hear on networks like CNN, Fox, MSNBC, etc. is sort of the, he said, she said political strategy game talk, where they talk about what will Democrats have to concede to Donald Trump on in order to get the government up and running again. Or what will Trump have to give up with his border wall plan in order to get the government up and running again. When what really should be talked about is a government shutdown has a lot of consequences for people who work for the government and other people as well. So we see in this story there's lots of federal employees, such as Secret Service agents, that are going to have to not only not receive pay, but they're going to have to work without pay for a certain period of time until the government reopens. One of the things mentioned in that first paragraph was that businesses aren't able to raise necessary capital, aren't able to get government approval for certain things. And that strikes me as an area where Republicans as well as Democrats should really come together in, saying that we need to end this government shutdown no matter what. I mean, Republicans have touted themselves as the small business party. Really, Democrats have tried to do that too for a long period of time. And keeping the government closed doesn't strike me as the best way to market yourselves as the small business party, because that's not great for small businesses who are just trying to raise capital they need to get ahead. And this also just appears to be a hassle for regular people, especially when it comes to things like mortgages. So the article continues here. "Farmers who plan to apply for subsidies to help mitigate the effect of Mr. Trump's trade war must wait to get paid until the Agriculture Department's Farm Servants Agency offices reopen. And in neighborhoods across the country, as many as 39,000 federally backed mortgage applications have already been delayed because of reduced staffing in federal agencies, according to Zillow estimates." So once again, you're really seeing a lot of people who are Trump's constituents, people who are small business owners and people who, have farms or whatever, people who, might live in rural parts of the country, are really the ones who potentially could be the most hurt by this government shutdown. So now that I've talked a little bit about why a government shutdown is, bad in the first place, and what exactly some of the consequences are of that, one could respond to the argument about all the consequences of a government shutdown by saying, well, if the reasons that you're shutting down the government are something that's going to benefit the American people in the long run, then maybe you can justify it. To that I say, sure, but Trump's border wall definitely is not that. Now, I want to make 2 points about the wall here. First off is that building the wall is actually going to hurt quite a few people in the United States. And second of all, it's just not going to be effective in doing what Trump wants to do, which is halt immigration. So an article from Reason.com, which is a libertarian-leaning publication, they had a few graphics from U.S. Customs and Border Protection that I think are really helpful in seeing why Trump's border wall would actually hurt quite a few people in the United States. And the main reason for this is as follows. So if you look at the graphic here, more than 2/3 of the land along the border doesn't belong to the federal government. So you see in the green area of the chart, a lot of that is federal land, and then the yellow area is tribal lands, and then everything else, which is a majority of the area along the border, is private property. It belongs to citizens of the United States. So if the US government wants to build a border wall, they're going to have to seize a lot of that private land to have the space to do it. And that's going to hurt a lot of US citizens who very well may need that land, either to live on or to use it for farming or whatever. But I think the most important point when we talk about the border wall is that it's not actually going to be effective in terms of stopping undocumented immigration like Trump wants to do. So if we look at an article from CNBC, during the 2018 fiscal year, which ran through the end of September, Customs and Border Protection apprehended 396,579 undocumented immigrants at the southern border. That figure is lower than the 413,377 yearly average apprehensions during former President Obama's tenure, and only a small fraction of the 1,643,679 apprehensions in 2000 when Bill Clinton was in office. President Trump's claims at the southern border also failed to emphasize that the majority of illegal immigration occurs when immigrants overstay their temporary visas. During the 2017 fiscal year, the Department of Homeland Security found that 701,900 immigrants with visas remained in the U.S. past their expected departure date, more than double the 303,916 immigrants apprehended at the border during that same time frame. A report by the Center for Migration Studies found this pattern to be true for every year since 2007. So what does that mean? Basically, that means that the main problem with undocumented immigration is not that people are sneaking across the border and the reason that they're getting through is because we don't have a border wall. The reason that we have a problem with undocumented immigration is because people come here, they get visas, and then they overstay those visas. Regardless of what you think about undocumented immigration in the first place, a border wall is most definitely not going to stop any of that. People are flying into the United States, then getting visas, then overstaying them. What does a border wall do to stop that? Absolutely nothing. So you're basically wasting billions of dollars to build the wall in the first place, and then you'd be wasting billions more to maintain the wall, all for really nothing that's going to actually try and do anything to stop undocumented immigration. So when you really take a step back and look at the reasons for why the government shutdown is occurring in the first place, look at the reasons behind the border wall, it really doesn't make a lot of sense that Trump is refusing to allow the government to function as it normally should because of this kind of an issue. So that's going to do it for today's video. As always, make sure to like this video, subscribe, share it with friends, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.